300 a month.
Welcome everyone to the Public Works Committee meeting. First order of business, Chair, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Mr. Trainer, Ms. Bruno on the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Ron, is your mic working?
There, are they, can you hear me now?
I can.
No.
No. Gotta speak up a little.
He's a low talker.
How about now? Can you hear me?
There you go.
All right. Very good. Thank you, everyone.
Of course.
Without objection, I'll offer privilege of the floor. I see we have Jim Lieberman. Where are you, Jim? There he is, Jim Lieberman. Would you like to address the committee at this time, Kevin?
Yeah, we'll do it now. Good. Thanks, Jim. All right, so thanks for having me here. Most people, I think, know me. For those of you who don't, I'm Jim Lieberman. I'm the district manager for Warren County Soil and Water. And I've never been accused of nobody being able to hear me. So, so I'm here. We're assisting Kevin in the Department of Public Works for the county because some of you may know and are familiar with the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Program, the MS4 program. It's a permit system that is necessary for county facilities, roads, and infrastructure within what's called the urbanized area of the MS4 program. So it's in the towns of Queensbury, Lake George, and if there was any county infrastructure in the city of Glens Falls or the village. So this is dealing with stormwater management. This is addressing water quality issues, and it's not an optional permit. It's a mandated permit that the program actually started in 1987 and has progressed up from New York City, Long Island, all the way up into what they consider the urbanized areas, or basically the upstate cities of New York, including Watertown. There's some oddities like Plattsburgh isn't, Gloversville isn't, but it doesn't really matter. So the city of Glens Falls is an MS4 operator now. They've changed terms because on January 3rd, a new permit was issued, which was 3 years. I think it was delayed 3 years. And it was delayed 3 years because the first iteration of the permit came out and it was deemed not strong enough by the Natural Resources Defense Council. So the DEC was sued for that. In the meantime, they came out with a second iteration and they were sued by, I'm going to get it wrong, but it's basically the New York Association of Towns and Villages for being too strict. So they had to work it out. And after the 3-year period, we have the permit. We've been working on the MS4 program for a number of years, but it is not our permit. So we've been kind of just assisting and doing the reporting, doing a lot of the field work. It is a county permit. And back in 2008, when the county became an MS4 community, it fell under the jurisdiction of the DPW. It was George Van Duzen. Thank you. So we were asked to take it on back then. And I think it's gone along pretty well. You've passed several audits, and it's not a difficult program, but it's not a simple program. I'll put it that way. So with the new requirements, there's entire changes to the program, including titles, responsibilities. There are 6 sections the county needs to be in compliance with, which are called minimum control measures, and they run the gamut from activities that include public participation all the way to good housekeeping. So basically not having a salt pile at the south shop exposed to the weather. That's good housekeeping. So Kevin's very familiar with it. So he's asked us to work on the information. So Macon Homes put the notice to the DEC as required. And then we've been working, Nick Rowell and myself from my office have been working on the permit requirements. It is a 155-page permit. And what I think is the most telling is the question and answer guidance is 55 pages long. So it is, as I said, it's not terribly difficult, but it's very difficult to understand, I guess. So there's going to be an enhanced amount for the county of outfall inspections. Any stormwater conveyance such as along Quaker Road, whether it is in a culvert or an open channel, such as a ditch, is now considered something that needs to be monitored. So monitoring, sampling, and they went from a yearly report, end of year report, to 2 interim reports and a yearly report. And the second interim report is due the same day as the yearly report. So anyway, if anybody has interest in that more, I can let you know, but we started, Kevin's taking a look at the stormwater management program plan, which is this document, which will address the first year of the program. So there are certain widgets that need to be taken care of the first up into including the first year. There are annual widgets, and then there are additional projects and requirements in years 2, 3, and 5. I don't know why they don't have a 4, but they just don't. So the past information has been available at the Warren County website for residents, and all the past reports are available. They're available at our website, the Soil and Water website. It's, I think, pretty well done. So when we're talking about the MS4 program, you're looking at water quality that is focused primarily on phosphorus, nitrogen, bacteria, silt and sediments, heavy metals, things of that nature. And it's not every single water body, but it's actually a considerable number when you look at the users. It's Glen Lake, Lake Sunnyside, Halfway Brook, the tributaries to Lake George in and around the village of Lake George itself, tributaries to the Hudson River, tributaries to the feeder canal, and then minor tribs to below that in the Hudson River. So it's again, it's something that if people are interested in, they have to kind of delve into it a bit, but there's going to be a lot of work going on. And one of the requirements that we talked to Kevin about is there in 2008, the 2009, I believe, the county adopted a local law which mirrored the New York State sample for illicit discharge detection and elimination. That is put into place in the event that there's an illicit discharge. So for example, someone takes some cans of paint or oil, dumps them into the county infrastructure. The county has to follow up on that. So they have to have a monitoring, tracking, and enforcement protocols. That local law needs to be updated with new permits and new titles. So it has to be completely redone. In my understanding, that requires a public hearing. So Kevin, is there anything else you would like me to add at this time? I'm sure everybody is thrilled with what they heard.
Just to say, first of all, thank you to Jim and his staff, because I'm not sure that we'd be able to take on all this at DPW with the short staff that I have. So they've done a phenomenal job since 2008. I've had no complaints. We work together fairly well, get Jim and his staff the information that's needed. So I guess in the long and short of it, we will have to bring in June not an amend local law, I would say a new local law based on the new regulations and guidelines. And then in July, we would have the public hearing open and closed at the board meeting, and we would accept the new local law for the new MS4 program. Go ahead. Thanks, Jim.
Well, I have a question. Will there be some budgetary considerations related to the new plan? If so, I think they should be advanced with the plan so everybody understands that, you know, there are going to be additional man hours here. Where are they coming from? What's it going to cost?
So
Just so
we
we're all clear
had
on
an
that.
agreement. You correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we've never had a contractor agreement to do the work. We were asked to do it back in 2010, I think, to take it on. There is a resolution authorizing the district manager to be the stormwater management officer. That's it. So, but they relieved that title in the new permit. So that's gone. So now it's a stormwater program coordinator, I believe. But we've just been working under those auspices to get the program completed.
So Jim and I have had a discussion regarding the work that they've done and then what this new permit requires and will entail. And Jim and I are working on kind of having an agreement, MOA or something between the county and soil and water, with the new titles and such, but there's going to be a cost associated with it as well. And we were somewhere in the ballpark of about $20,000 a year.
Yeah, we estimate it's going to be between 250 and 300 hours of personnel time. And some of that is two people because they're out in the field. When we're out in the field and some of the areas that we're doing the water quality sampling, you can't have one person.
Right.
So,
Well, let me just say, and maybe for the benefit of the new supervisors, there's no more important organization than Soil and Water. I can tell you the number of times I've had to pick up that telephone and make that call to Jim, to you, and to your predecessor, Dave Wick, and others that, and you always come running. And it's you're a big resource for the county and for the municipalities within the county.
but I appreciate that, Ron, and, I've said it from the beginning of when I started to now, we work for all the residents in the county. That's why we're here. If we're not looking to do conservation, local conservation, and preserve what we have for people coming up and visiting and supporting us, then why do I have a job? So that's why we're here. I'm a proud resident of Thurman, and we really enjoy our work. And if you don't know what we do, we have a wide variety of things all the way down to the city of Glens Falls a couple of years ago calling me when they had a rattlesnake run over and we were asked to take care of everything. And that was one of the high points of the humorous things that we dealt with. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the report.
Thanks, Jim.
Very good. All right. I have a board meeting to go to this.
All right, Jim. Okay, we're under the solid waste agenda. What item would you like to take up first here?
We have no action agenda items or new business items for solid waste, so we can get right into the discussion items. I will turn it over to, if you allow me, to Scott Royal, who will talk about household hazardous waste.
Thanks, Kevin. We had our May 11th household hazardous waste event in Queensbury. So my first event, it seemed to work pretty smoothly. Thanks to the town of Queensbury for providing a couple staff to drive a forklift and load items onto the truck. We had 189 vehicles come through, which is a little lower than our last year's Queensbury event, which had about 200. We did have some, you need to sign up in advance so we kind of know what materials are coming in. This year we had about 15 folks who didn't sign up ahead of time. We do accommodate them. Last year we had about 30. So, I'm trying to figure out if we're getting better at our communication as we put it out to the towns. But overall, it seemed to be on par with last year's event. I'm waiting for the final invoice from our contractor, MXI.
It's a great event and very important that these products be disposed of correctly. And I think we do 2 a year now.
Well,
We try to do.
I'll add on to that. So usually we'll do it off years. That this year would be the one that was just in Queensbury. Next year will be the one back in Warrensburg and in Queensbury again. So we alter every other year to the one.
Okay.
So next year we'll have 2.
Very good. The next item.
So we have a working group looking at both recyclables in Warren County and the possibility of a kind of a county facility. We're also looking at moving forward county organics, so food scraps. So we're looking at both of those items. We have our 2023 organics management plan, which outlaid different options for the county as far as dealing with food scraps, which are generally cited as being about 35% of our waste stream. So the group's moving along, trying to come up with kind of a unified vision based on the organics management plan. We meet again in June. I feel like we're making progress. We're looking at the sites that were identified. I've been fortunate to connect with the town of Bethlehem, who has a very successful food scraps collection. They've been very transparent, providing financial data. So I think, it's been stated that beyond getting grants for any capital costs, we want to look at the long-term business plan. So I meet with Bethlehem on May 30th, and they're going to share more of their operating expenses as well as revenues. So I think that information, in addition to the working group, we're kind of trying to come up with a vision for what the county might want to do with food scraps. Yeah, and then on the other side, we've been looking at recyclables. So a very big costs for the towns are paying to get rid of plastics right now is $214 a ton, whereas solid waste is $65 a ton. I think the big question is, those are supposed to be commodities that have value. Why are we paying so much to get rid of these items? There's a company, Replenish, who presented last year, who has relationships with a lot of the big players like Walmart and Coca-Cola, and they have established relationships where you take out the middle person and can theoretically lower those costs. So right now we're looking at developing an RFP kind of geared toward that model in the working group. So we've been moving through the RFP. We haven't finalized anything yet, but I feel like we're making some progress there.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that is, Replenish, when they came in here, asked to give us a good proposal, although we would have to put out a proposal for others to have that same opportunity. I guess the pitfall is having a location. The equipment that Replenish would most likely lease us or allow us to use, which would be the balers and such, needs cover. So kind of in tandem, Scott and the group have been looking at grant funding to be able to have a facility, and we would most likely locate it in Lake George. As you all know, we went out for the EPA grant last year and we were unsuccessful with that grant. So Scott and the group are looking for other grants so we can at least have the facility. So they're running hand in hand, but we don't want to put the cart before the horse. We can certainly get Replenish or some other company to come in, but I need a facility to house it in first. So that's what they're also working on in the working group, is finding some grant funding for both organics and for the recycling.
Any questions for Scott? My only comment would be on the green waste is that, we have residents that collect it in their household and take it to a transfer station as one channel. Then we have residents that collect their green waste, but they're disposed of by private haulers. And then we have the commercial producers, restaurants, supermarkets, et cetera, to produce. So there's at least three primary channels. There are probably more if we, but so I think it's important that we have an approach that works, in all three of those channels.
And just to add on, that was part of the organics management plan is, how do we collect from is it a drop off point for households to be able to go to transfer stations? And then from there, we would have to get it to wherever we may or may not have a facility. So that was all part of the plan moving forward. So they're certainly looking at that as they're moving forward to work through.
Very good. I mean, I don't need to tell you, reducing at least by weight, if not volume, our waste stream by 35% or more is huge. I mean, when you think about not only the disposal costs, but the transport costs on that, it's just on a countywide basis, it's significant. Okay, what's next?
So speaking of those transportation costs, the last thing that Scott's been working on, and I'll let him add onto it, but we've been discussing hauling for the towns. As you all know, when Thomas Zabo was here, he looked at kind of the runs that the towns were requiring, summer, winter, and we had determined back then that it was cheaper for the county if we had trucks to be able to haul for the towns and reduce their cost. So what we are proposing is we were able to obtain 2 trucks, and for you towns who have had a hard time getting trucks, our bid was that they had to have the trucks on site for us to be able to get them. And we had a company out of Pennsylvania, I believe it was, Had 2 container trucks, brand new, that we were able to receive, and I think we take possession of them by the end of this month. We would not put that into play for us hauling for the towns till later on in the year. Scott's working through with each one of the transfer stations he's been meeting with to verify the information that Thomas had regarding the hauls. And I'll let you kind of add on, they've been fairly close.
Yeah, so we had an estimate from last year of the average hauls per month, which I'm confirming with transfer stations and seemed to be pretty accurate. The piece that I was confirming was what's the peak hauls? So, over an average, we can confirm that, we would have capacity, but just taking another look at the numbers to confirm, July or August, what things would look like for peak months as far as number of hauls. So I'm currently kind of getting that data right now. It's been great for me to meet with folks at the transfer stations, and yeah, everyone's been nice and helpful, and we're going to try to get the operators together in June too, just to discuss that issue and further issues.
So based on what Scott's done, he's putting kind of some numbers together. I talked to Julie, we would have probably another bid put out for disposal sometime in August, so that all the towns would have it for their budgets. And then we would come up with hauling fees for each one of the towns. We still believe to this day that it's going to be a reduction for all the towns, especially Hague, that it'll be a much reduced cost, but we would not initiate these intermunicipal agreements and this hauling until January 1, when the bids for this year are done. So that's all I have.
Yeah, we're also getting information that some of these haulers are having difficulty getting drivers as well. This issue is growing, and I think so reliability becomes very important. I mean, the waste stream doesn't stop, right? It just keeps coming. So I think having a plan going forward, I think that's going to at least ensure reliability is critical. Go ahead.
Just the one thing that I want to add on is this will require, I'll kind of lay it out now, staff to be able to do this hauling for the towns. So I will, when Scott and I finally finalize that plan, I will come back requesting probably a position or a position and a half in my solid waste division.
Well, I mean, we're paying for it anyway, right? I mean, we're paying for it. It's not like it's being taken away for free. So all the municipalities well understand the cost. And as far as seasonality, I mean, in some of our communities like Bowen, for example, you could easily be talking 2 times, maybe even more, maybe even 3 times. Summer,
Right.
The balance of the year on the flow of some of this.
The other thing I'll add on to is I think most of you have seen the treasurer's report that comes out every month, and Rob Lynch has discussed us tracking the containers because we cannot keep a finger on containers when they get hauled by private haulers. Casella could go up to Hague and take a container out, drop another one off, and then our container goes and gets set somewhere, and then it winds up somewhere else. I believe when we started last year with the town of Johnsburg, you had all Warren County containers, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if it was shortly, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, there was a bunch of other containers up there that weren't county containers, and they shouldn't be charging you for those because we have the containers to give you. So if they're just swapping them out and putting their containers in, they certainly can't charge, but it's very hard for us to track. So now if the county does the hauling, we will be able to track every single one of those containers because we're the ones moving.
Just an FYI for everyone, what the price of a container right now is how much?
Ranges anywhere from $6,000 to $20,000 depending on size.
They're not inexpensive. They are expensive. Alrighty, next item, Kevin.
That's all I have for solid waste.
Okay, any questions, solid waste?
Yeah, no,
Privilege of the floor, Jim exercised the privilege, but anyone else wishing to address the committee at this time? Okay, let's move on. Parks and Rec without objection.
So I have no action agenda items or new business under Parks and Rec. Information for discussion review. Spring Zing happened last weekend at the hatchery. But I want to thank Supervisor Flaherty. He had stopped by. We had 270 individuals at the Spring Zing, so it was a great turnout. We did have some rain during the event, but we survived. So it was a great turnout. Next item I have down there is a track washout update. As you all know, we put out kind of a similar to a heavy highway bid. You're all set, Scott. Thank you. We put basically a kind of a heavy rail bid for the repairs that were needed on the railroad track. We had 3 proposers or 3 bidders. We awarded it to 2. I guess I want to say the first one in line, we had them go out and take a look at the 2 washouts that are down in the southern portion of the track. And they came back with a proposal that was fairly high. We asked them to revise it, but to do it as a worst case scenario. So the proposal came back at $590,000 to do the washouts on the track. That does not include the one in Riparius. Do I think they're a little high? They are, but we also said worst case scenario, what you had to do. Now, with that in mind, this heavy work bid that we put out, the county would be supplying all the material. So this really comes down to labor. The issue with where these washouts are, it's in the middle of a section of a track that we have to drop material 2 miles away, that we have to load their rail cars to be able to bring it up there and do the work on the rail. So there's no changing that number. It's just an estimate right now. Right now, I only have $319,000 in the railroad reserve and another $9,000 in another reserve account that we had split with, I believe, the town of Corinth at the time, but it's our funding. So maybe $328,000 total that I have to do a $590,000 repair. With that being said, that depletes my reserve down to 0. So I have no money in the reserve whatsoever, except for the fact that RevRail over the next 5 years, the $100,000 a year that they're supposed to pay to the county will be put back into that reserve. So I don't have necessarily a resolution in front of you, and I guess I will ask the committee. My thought process would be that we need to get the track repaired for RevRail's use. I don't know what the price of the repair would be in Riparius. We haven't had them even look at that yet. And that wasn't our first concern. The concern is the southern end where they have their runs the majority of the time. I would propose or ask or request that maybe the money comes from the general fund, and then the money that comes back in from RevRail that would go into the reserve would pay back the general fund. Again, I don't have a resolution in front of you. I wanted to kind of discuss it in committee first and see where everybody wanted to go. And the other thing is, as number 3 on there, is there's some other station repairs, again, that I don't have funding for, which the roof in the station in North Creek has seen its life, and it needs to be replaced, repaired. And there's going to be a cost associated with that as well.
Discussion.
That makes sense.
My comment would be that I think that whatever the differential is, 150 or 200, whatever it ends up being between what we presently have in our railroad capital reserve, if I can call it that, and the actual cost, I think, yeah, the only way to do that, I think, Frank, is probably to advance that out of the unobligated fund balance. I don't think you want to deplete your contingency by that amount. The only place where I kind of have different thinking is that any revenue received that not go to repay that fund, that it immediately go back into the capital reserve fund, because we don't know what we have in front of us. And I don't want it to seem like that revenue is sufficient to support what may be the infrastructure requirements of this railroad going forward. It's
That would be additional.
if we start repaying what we consider to be a loan, there won't ever be any money in the capital reserve. Yep, go ahead.
I will just add on, as you all recall, we had, when Saratoga North Creek was there and when Hudson River was there, I mean, they did a lot of the heavy maintenance on the track. Rev Rail, we certainly have in their contract to make sure that they're, you know, cutting brush down and keeping, you know, the inspection of the culverts, but they're not contractors. They're doing the best they can with the staff that they have, but the bottom line is the December storms that came in and washed out County Route 11 and Trout Lake and Call Street are the same ones that washed out the track. And they're in sections of the track that I don't have a high rail, so I can't get to them. I don't have equipment that I can set on the track. I can do it. That's why we went to these bids. I was at Safety Days yesterday that we put on over at the fairgrounds for all the towns and for the county as well. And then we have vendors always set up there. There's a vendor that was there yesterday by the name of Alta, who sells a lot of equipment. And one of the things that I was discussing with them is high rail equipment to put on our grade all and high rail equipment to put on a truck so that we could start to get up and down the track ourselves and see this. I mean, last year I had the crew walk 40 miles of track. So, I mean, I don't have the vehicles to be able to do it. So there's certainly, and again, this repair is for the southern end. This $590,000 cost does not include repairs.
Chairman Garrity?
Yeah, I mean, railroad, I mean, if we're gonna keep these people on the railroad, we're gonna have to put some attention there. I mean, a $590,000 repair job is a pretty big repair job on tracks. So hopefully we're spotting the areas that culverts need to be walked or cleaned out or whatever, that you can prevent some of this stuff. I mean, you know, we always worked on the tracks at the mill. All the time they were out there working on the tracks, and I don't know who you got quotes from, but just seems like a lot of money. So get that big, I guess what I'm saying.
Just to add on to that, we looked at the repair that was done several years ago. Probably actually back in 2019 now, which was just below the train station. That repair was done by Railworks. Based on the cost of that repair and these are two spots as opposed to one spot. It's not unreasonable. I mean, we've seen anywhere from a 25 to a 50% inflation, increase, and that certainly matches.
Didn't we have insurance? We had insurance. Way back when we did.
Not that I'm aware of. But that was paid for out of reserve as well.
Mr. Bruner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Discussion here, a lot of money, everything. So we're gonna maintain this, but what are the benefits from this? From the rail? Does anybody know?
Well, I think if our information was that for Johnsburg and that section of the world and maybe countywide is a significant economic employer and significant economic benefit, bringing people to our area. But I think what you point to is that ownership of this corridor and the infrastructure is a huge, huge responsibility. We haven't even begun to talk about bridges. We haven't even begun to talk about some of these bridges. And this is a discussion we've had going all the way back in terms of continuing to have ownership of this corridor and the different options that we might have in that regard. But make no mistake, what you're pointing to is a big ticket item. And that's why I say that expecting that, some revenue is going to be able to satisfy, even on average, over the years, the responsibilities for this corridor, I think is not realistic. It's just not, and not at the present levels. And so, you know, if we're gonna have to maintain, and I think we are gonna have to maintain the ownership here for some time, I think that we're gonna have to, from a budgeting point of view, I think we're gonna have to take a different type of approach. I just don't see any other way around it. It's gonna take us, what, 3 years or more to, assuming we don't have any additional expenses, which I don't think is realistic, to even build back our reserve in this regard. And as I say, it doesn't have anything to do with any of the other responsibilities that we have, which is just significant. I mean, even the point that Kevin's making is that we don't even have the ability to traverse the line with a card.
Right.
I mean, I think that, you know, if you're gonna own an asset like this, I think you need to be able to do that, or you need to have access to people that can do that for you.
Right, but additionally to Chairman's point, is it worth also looking at some type of insurance, or is that cost prohibitive?
I really thought when we were dealing with that company, there was insurance. I really did.
I think when we did one with Railworks, it was FEMA related. That was the other washouts that we had. We probably got the funding.
Where's Frank?
Right here.
We have insurance.
I think we did it one time.
Yeah, I thought we did.
So maybe we should look at that
The
again.
other thing, I know I'm not supposed to talk.
No, you go right ahead. You go right ahead.
Somebody paid millions of dollars for the Hawes line. They paid a lot of money to buy it into the Hawes line.
Yeah.
And the same company that's running the rail bikes on our line bought the Hawes line. You may want to think about, if you want to keep the rail bikes on the line, sell them the tracks.
All right, I think this is a discussion going forward. We have to be careful we don't conduct a board meeting here, but I think that message is an important message, and I think that
More information.
we're going to need more information. But between now and then, Kevin, we're going to need some sort of financial plan going forward, at least for the next few years.
I want to ask,
Mayday?
as far as the high rails or whatever you call it, that gives you the ability to run the rails and bring equipment or material, right?
Yeah, they're attachments that would, and companies sell them for all types of grade. In fact, our grade all that we have is grade all brand. They sell them for a grade all that you can install them on a grade all. It's just a hydraulic system that puts you on metal kind of rails so you can ride the rails with your equipment.
Now, with that, would the county be able to do these repairs, or you would still be working with these companies?
Certainly what we would do is these repairs we wouldn't be able to do.
Right.
We just do not have the equipment. They bring up a champing machine and such, which is a specialized machine for a rail. I can't do that. Moving forward, we could certainly run the tracks every spring and every, fall before Rev Rail comes on and after Rev Rail leaves. And with a grade all, it's ditching work, it's tree work, it's, culvert work. A lot of those are laid up stone culverts. They've been there for a very long time.
And that, the benefit if you're maintaining those structures and the embankments and stuff, so
Okay.
it is, in my estimation, my humble opinion, it's worthwhile.
Yeah, no, I think either we need to run those rails and we need to be doing, as you say, Mr. Bruno, some housekeeping to help prevent more serious situations, or we need to contract with someone to do that regularly, and whatever that cost is, frankly, it probably pales compared to what the consequences are for not doing that. It could be something as simple as a block culvert, right? Just like on your roads. You get the debris blocks that culvert and then the water just starts. So we're gonna need to think about this. Good, John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. BN Engineering, who's working with us on our comp plan, I had a session with them at one time where they talked about the rail. And they believe there are a lot of grants. I see Ethan has walked in, DOT grants that might be able to help us with some of the rail costs. So I'll follow back up with them.
Right.
Now, they won't help by the summertime because of the nature of the way grants work.
But I think between now and then, I think that we need to be talking to a maintenance company and get somebody running these rails regularly, so we identify problems earlier. And I'm not saying it would have helped in this situation because of the nature of it, but you can understand even in road work, keeping an eye on.
Right. We need a plan. I mean, this rails, it's a big item. But we need a better plan for the future.
Chairman, can I just say one thing? I'm doing a very, very fast read on the general liability commercial policy. Most of the buildings that are associated with the rail line are on the policy. I haven't seen the actual track, but I'll go back through it again just to confirm that it's not covered. I'm hard pressed to imagine the county's paying insurance on miles and miles and miles of rail line. But I'll let Kevin.
Kevin?
That's right. So I can certainly make this maintenance plan moving forward and, discuss maybe in the budget this year, adding on high rails to trucks or on my grade alls and such. But with that being said, we're under contract with Red Rail right now to use the rail specifically in this area. Actually, they have the use of 40 miles of rail. I need to get, I guess the need is to get this repair done. So would we propose, and again, I'll turn to the budget officer, is this an amendment budget right here and now to add $300,000 to, well, not necessarily to a reserve. Do we do it to a capital project? And then I'd have to move the money out of the reserve also to cover the cost of this repair currently that we're up against.
Frank? Any comment on that?
Yeah, well, that's the way you're gonna do it. Take it out on balance, here we go.
Yeah, I think that's what, I would recommend that. That's what it would have to go to finance. Yeah,
It'd make a nice bike path.
so I think the point is Kevin should be referred directly to finance.
Point, how we're doing it.
So Kevin, we're gonna have to refer you directly to finance on this. You can meet with the treasurer and Frank to figure out the nuts and bolts on this.
Kevin, is there a chance we can they'll have the number for repairs?
No, we haven't asked them to look at that, but I certainly can. I did, the main part of the track that they're using right now is, or that they use, no one's ever used a repair section, so that wasn't our first repair. The spot that they're in now, that's a use for them, but we can certainly have a number for repairs.
Let's move on.
We're into Public Works agenda tonight.
Mhm.
So the first item we have on for Public Works is a miscellaneous request to establish a couple of the road projects. As you know, Nat, last month I brought main road projects. We were waiting on two other ones, and that is going to be River Street in Warrensburg and County Route 11, Horicon Avenue in Bolton. And the River Street is 220,000 and the County Route 11 is 230,000.
All right, Chair, I'll entertain a motion to move this forward for consideration. Mr. Bruno on the motion, Mr. Strainer on the second. All in favor? Okay, let's, any more detail on this, Kevin? No. Just add these to the list. Is that
Yep.
the idea?
That's correct.
Any discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of adding these projects to our 24 list signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next item we have is the transfer of funds out of that same Country Club Road project and transfer the funds to do the work, road work on Palisades Road, County Route 26.
Let's move this forward for its consideration. Mr. Strainer on the motion, Mr. Bean on the second. Any discussion? We're ready for the question then. All those in favor of the transfer of funds signify by saying aye. Opposed, carried. Next item. Bill.
Next item on there we have is a amend budget, and this is for an insurance recovery related to an accident with one of our trailers.
Okay, let's bring that forward for consideration. Mr. Trainer, Mr. Bruno on the second, discussion. All those in favor of amending the budget signify by saying aye. Opposed, that carried. Next item, Kevin.
These are real quick discussion items to move this along. We have the meeting with DEC on Monday up at the culvert at County Route 11, and I don't necessarily say we passed with flying colors, but fairly close. They wanted some minor work done up there for us, but they were pleased with what we had done. As far as project updates, Main Street in Johnsburg, North Creek starts today. And we're having our pre-construction meeting and pre-paving meetings with the contractors for the remainder of the work. And that's all I had.
Okay. Privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to address the committee at this time, Mr. Strainer?
Kevin, what are they doing on Route 9 right now down by Great Escape and?
We're gonna be doing a paving project, is what I understand, through DOT. And it's supposed to, I believe,
It looks like they were doing one patch at a time. Are they gonna do the whole road?
they're probably doing what they call T&L work first, which is the true and leveling course to kind of do repairs in the road, and then they'll come back over and do an overlay on top of that.
And how long do you think that's gonna take? They did advise you of this, correct? You did know?
No, I had to call around for it. I never got the notification from DOT, over the next several months. So it's gonna go through summer, a little bit into summer.
Wow. Well, then you gotta do it, but.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes, as far as the road projects, by my calculations from the $5,348,000 that was appropriated, we had $1,127,000 left. I would like to know where that's going to be obligated. I want to see this money spent for a change and not carried over. We're going to budget it. Let's, we need to do it. Let's do it. So that's the first part. And the second part is, where are we at with the culvert assessment?
As I said, the culvert assessment will be here June, July. They just gave us the green light from New Pick, which had that we got the grant funding for a portion of the culverts. So they just got the green light, so they can go ahead on that. They've already finalized the other 1,200 culverts or so. Location finding, GPSing them, and they're providing us the assessment, as I said, by the end of June. That'll give us a good indication going forward through budget season, what ones need immediate repair and what ones we can hold off on.
And do you have other road projects coming up that are going to spend this money?
You have right now $700,000 of that just went today to 3 other projects. So that leaves $500,000 left, which there will certainly be used. And it's not necessarily road projects. One of the projects that we worked on for the culverts was County Route 11, and one of them, again, when I came with the request for the bond or the ban, that was estimates. Costs came in higher. So some of that money will be used there as well. And I want to add on, and Frank, I understand the budgeting of money is one thing, but we do carry over a lot of money every year because my staff watches the contractors fairly closely on these projects. We always have savings in our projects. And that's good that my staff is keeping an eye on the contractor and what they're doing and holding them to their costs. And that's what makes a big difference when we have unit price bids, because if it says 2,000 tons of asphalt and they only use 1,500, they're only getting paid for 1,500. So that's where we have that savings. So yes, that money certainly does carry over every year.
Yeah, that's fine, but if we're going to budget $5 million, then I expect to see $5 million.
Yep.
In the past, that's not been good.
All right. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? The committee? There being none, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Strainer, Mr. Bruno, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned, everyone. Thank you.
You know.